The pop music world has lost another giant figure. Robin Gibb of the Bee Gees died Sunday after a long battle with cancer.
What if the very gift that made Robin Gibb a legend, his voice, his creativity, was also the thing keeping him from facing a silent killer? For years, he hid the one truth no fan saw coming, a truth that eerily mirrored the fate of his twin brother. This isn't just another celebrity tragedy, it's a haunting pattern that rocked the Gibb family to its core. Stick around, because what you're about to learn will forever change how you see the Bee Gees. In 2012, the music world lost a voice that had once soundtracked an entire generation. Robin Gibb, the ethereal tenor of the Bee Gees, was more than a disco icon. His story was laced with brilliance, heartbreak, and secrets that remained long after his final performance. Behind the sparkle of platinum records and global fame was a life shaped by profound personal challenges and a quest for identity. From the euphoric heights of Saturday Night Fever to the deeply personal battles few ever saw, Robin's story is one of breathtaking success shadowed by quiet sorrow. It all began on December 22, 1949, on the Isle of Man, where Robin Hugh Gibb entered the world, just 35 minutes before his twin brother Maurice. Together with their older brother Barry, they would form a musical dynasty. Born into a home where rhythm and melody were as natural as breathing, their father Hugh, a band leader and drummer, and mother Barbara, a former singer, instilled a deep love for music early on. Even as children, the Gibb brothers weren't content with nursery rhymes. They were crafting songs, layering harmonies, and building what would one day become a musical phenomenon. Though the family lived modestly in the beginning, first on the Isle of Man, then in Manchester, it was their move to Australia in 1958 that turned the tide. In sun-drenched Brisbane, the young brothers began performing anywhere they could: speedways, talent shows, TV programs. They called themselves the Bee Gees, a name that may have stemmed from Brothers Gibb, or perhaps from local promoters Bill Good and Bill Gates. Either way, they quickly made an impression. At just 12 years old, Robin was already turning heads with a voice that sounded both ancient and modern, fragile and commanding all at once. Their big break started small, singing between races at Redcliffe Speedway, but the dedication was relentless. After school, the brothers would huddle and practice for hours, refining their signature three-part harmonies. Their first single, The Battle of the Blue and the Gray, came in 1963, followed by their first taste of success with Wine and Women in 1965. During this time, Robin wasn't just finding his voice, he was discovering his pen. His songwriting began to carry emotional weight and sophistication beyond his years. It was Robin's trembling, poignant vocal on I Started a Joke that first showcased his ability to cut straight to the soul of a song. The haunting delivery gave the Bee Gees their signature mood, raw, reflective, unforgettable. But Australia, for all it had given them, began to feel too small for their ambitions. So in 1966, they took a leap of faith. The Gibb family boarded a ship back to England, determined to chase a bigger dream. Little did they know, they were about to explode onto the global stage. In 1967, the Bee Gees arrived in London just as the British music scene was evolving. Amid the seismic wake left by the Beatles, the Gibb brothers found a niche of their own. A pivotal meeting with music impresario Robert Stigwood would change everything. Stigwood, sensing their potential, signed them and secured a record deal with Polydor. Their first international hit, New York Mining Disaster 1941, introduced Robin's voice to the world, so unique that many thought it was the Beatles in disguise. Then came the game changer, Massachusetts. With Robin's voice at the forefront, the song shot to #1 across Europe. His vocal on I've Got to Get a Message to You and the philosophical melancholy of I Started a Joke cemented his place as the emotional core of the group. His songwriting grew richer, tackling themes that went far beyond standard pop fare, hinting at a mind that wrestled with deeper currents. But as their star rose, pressure mounted. The non-stop cycle of recording, touring, and promotion began to wear down the young trio, especially Robin. Just 19 years old, he was already feeling the cost of fame. Behind the smiles and harmonies was a young man quietly drifting into emotional fatigue. The cracks began to show. Robin's growing frustration with the band's creative direction and feeling increasingly sidelined by Barry and Maurice led to rising tensions. He believed their music was moving away from the soulfulness he connected with. The weight of being overshadowed chipped away at his confidence and his peace of mind. In 1969, Robin made a bold and heartbreaking choice. He left the Bee Gees. Determined to establish his own voice, both literally and artistically, he stepped into a solo career with the single Saved by the Bell, which soared to #2 in the UK. His solo album, Robin's Reign, followed, a moody, introspective collection that reflected his inner world. For a moment, it seemed Robin was carving out a powerful new identity. But even with success, something was missing: the chemistry of brotherhood. By 1970, the gravitational pull of family proved stronger than personal ambition. The brothers reconciled, and their reunion set the stage for the most legendary phase of their careers. Though reunited, Robin was never quite the same. That brief split had exposed his emotional fragility and highlighted a deeper vulnerability that would linger throughout his life. As the 1970s rolled in, the Bee Gees were on the cusp of yet another reinvention. But the scars Robin carried from those early battles, internal and external, would shape every note that followed. The harmony was back, but so were the unspoken undercurrents that hinted at more storms to come. And as the world would soon see, their journey was far from over. It's astonishing how life can offer its sweetest highs and cruelest lows at the very same time. While the Bee Gees were climbing the summit of global stardom, Robin Gibb found himself quietly standing at a crossroads. Creatively, the group was stalled, searching for a new direction, something that could ignite the spark again. Personally, though, Robin had found comfort in stability. His marriage to Molly Hullis, a young secretary working under Robert Stigwood, offered him grounding. The two tied the knot in 1968 and welcomed Spencer and Melissa into the world, giving Robin a kind of peace that fame could never supply. But behind the scenes, a dramatic shift was brewing. With commercial success wavering, the brothers made a bold decision that would alter the course of music history. They left England behind for Miami, seeking a fresh start under the warm haze of a new environment. Working with the innovative producer, Arif Mardin, they ventured into unfamiliar territory, infusing rhythm and groove into their sound. It was a daring leap. The 1975 release of Main Course proved just how pivotal that leap was. Jive Talkin' exploded onto the charts with a swagger and energy that no one saw coming. In that moment, they weren't just surviving the musical tide, they were riding it straight into a new era. As the Bee Gees embraced this dance-driven sound, Robin's place in the trio quietly evolved. Barry's falsetto became the sonic signature, but Robin's voice, warm, haunting, unmistakable, was the emotional soul that balanced the sheen. He didn't fade into the background. Instead, he shifted, adapted, and amplified the group's emotional resonance. And then came a moment that would change everything. The Bee Gees were asked to contribute to the soundtrack of Saturday Night Fever, a film still in early production stages. What happened next was almost mythic. They wrote their contributions in a single weekend. What followed was beyond success. It was cultural ignition. The Saturday Night Fever soundtrack sold more than 40 million copies. It wasn't just music, it was movement, mood, and magic. Robin's vocals on tracks like How Deep Is Your Love weren't just background harmonies. They were the aching pulse underneath a glittering soundscape. For a while, it seemed like Robin had it all: chart-topping hits, artistic purpose, and a family waiting for him at home. But what the world saw in flashing lights wasn't the full story. Just as their music dominated airwaves, Robin was beginning to fracture under the pressure. The Bee Gees weren't just recording for themselves. They were crafting hits for icons like Barbra Streisand and Dionne Warwick. Robin, ever the perfectionist, felt the weight of each note, each session, each deadline. The strain crept into his personal life. The endless travel and separation strained his marriage. The man who once found refuge in family life was now watching it unravel, piece by piece. Still, he kept performing, smiling, and recording like nothing was wrong. Few outside his inner circle saw the internal collapse, the long hours in the studio, the persistent health concerns, the growing emotional toll. While disco fans danced to Stayin' Alive, Robin was quietly breaking inside. His ability to channel pain into melody made him a genius, but it also left him emotionally exposed, without the shield many artists rely on. Robin's resilience came at a steep cost. Throughout the late 70s and early 80s, he wrestled with waves of exhaustion and moments of deep uncertainty. His marriage to Molly eventually ended after 12 years, but even in heartbreak, he kept creating. The connection with his twin brother Maurice became his lifeline. They weren't just collaborators, they were soul mirrors, supporting each other through emotional storms that few others could understand. Then, almost overnight, the music that had once defined them became a punchline. The disco backlash was swift and brutal. Radio stations blacklisted their music, critics dismissed their legacy, and sales plummeted. For Robin, the rejection cut deep. How could the world so quickly turn on the sound it once worshipped? Instead of retreating, he pushed forward, pouring himself into solo projects. In 1983, he released How Old Are You?, with Boys Do Fall in Love becoming a surprise hit. And just when life seemed at its darkest, something unexpected bloomed: love again. He met and later married Dwina Murphy, a free-spirited artist with a passion for history, poetry, and the mystical. Their bond was unconventional but unshakable. And in 1983, the birth of their son Robin John brought renewed purpose to Robin's life. In a quiet corner of Oxfordshire, they restored a 12th-century monastery and transformed it into their family home. Robin even built a high-tech recording studio there, a place where music, nature, and personal healing could coexist. It wasn't just about producing songs anymore, it was about creating legacy. By the mid-90s, public sentiment was shifting. The Bee Gees were finally being acknowledged, not just for disco hits, but for decades of songwriting brilliance. Their induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997 was validation, long overdue but deeply meaningful. Robin leaned into this new chapter with maturity and purpose. His dedication to humanitarian causes grew stronger. He campaigned for environmental protections, supported music festivals promoting cultural unity, and embraced the role of elder statesman in the music world. Yet behind his warm smile and tireless efforts, unspoken fears simmered beneath the surface. The Gibb family had known too much loss. Andy's tragic passing in 1988 haunted Robin. Though the official cause was heart failure, those close to the family understood the toll years of struggle had taken. When their father Hugh died just a few years later, the emotional weight grew heavier. Robin buried the pain, choosing to channel it into music instead. But his own body began to whisper warnings. Digestive issues that once seemed minor became recurring. The family history of intestinal complications lingered in his mind like an unspoken prophecy. Still, he pressed on, composing, performing, collaborating with his son on ambitious works like the Titanic Requiem, blending classical grandeur with modern elegance. It was his way of keeping the music alive, even as his health quietly began to fade. He was a man who seemed built from melody and memory, but behind the symphonic brilliance of Robin Gibb's life was a quiet war he waged with his own body. Through the late 2000s, Robin's recurring digestive issues were brushed off with stubborn optimism. He feared invasive procedures that might disrupt his rhythm of creativity. But sometimes, fate doesn't wait for permission. His decision to delay intervention would eventually lead to a devastating unraveling. And yet, the tragedy didn't begin with him. It was January 2003 when the Gibb family was first blindsided by fate's cruel hand. Robin's twin brother Maurice collapsed from intense abdominal pain in Miami. Emergency surgery revealed a twisted intestine, a rare and dangerous condition, but the complications spiraled. During a second operation, Maurice's heart gave out. He was only 53. For Robin, this was no ordinary loss. It felt like losing a part of himself. Born minutes apart, their bond had been unspoken, psychic almost. Maurice's death marked a line in the sand for Robin, both musically and emotionally. The Bee Gees were never about one or two voices, he once said. We were brothers. That was our music's soul. The cause of Maurice's death struck a chilling chord. It wasn't just a tragedy, it was a warning. Robin's own abdominal pain had mirrored his brother's for years, a parallel he could no longer ignore. Still, he marched on. He immersed himself in solo projects, collaborated across genres, and kept a steady hand in the studio. But those closest to him noticed the shift. His silence grew heavier, his urgency sharper. It was as if he knew he was racing against time. And then came 2010. While touring in Belgium, Robin collapsed in pain. doctors discovered a blocked intestine, the very same condition that had ended Maurice's life. He was rushed into surgery in Oxford, and though he pulled through, the echo of his brother's fate was deafening. The fear was no longer just in his mind. It was stitched into his reality. He pressed forward, partnering with his son RJ on the Titanic Requiem. But behind the curtain, the anxiety deepened. Even as he reassured fans with a calm smile and playful interviews, Robin knew the truth. The surgery had revealed more than a blockage. Doctors urged him to undergo further tests. He nodded, promised, and yet didn't always follow through. There was a silent battle unfolding between fear and acceptance. And in April 2011, the turning point came. The pain intensified, and this time he couldn't look away. Tests confirmed colorectal cancer, already spread to the liver. Robin chose silence once more. Only his inner circle knew. He endured rounds of chemotherapy, clinging to work as his sanctuary. He made rare appearances when he could, his body frail but his will unwavering. When he finally revealed his illness publicly in October 2011, it sent shockwaves through his global fan base. "Sometimes I wonder," he confided, "if all the loss in our family is the price for the fame we've had." It was one of his final interviews, one that unveiled the haunting burden he'd carried, the feeling that his fate had been sealed years ago with Maurice's final breath. But even as the disease advanced, Robin pressed on. In February 2012, he took the stage at the London Palladium for the final time. Emaciated and weak, he still drew a standing ovation. That moment was more than a performance. It was a goodbye, bathed in applause. Just weeks later, complications from pneumonia forced him into a coma. For a brief, miraculous moment in April, he regained consciousness. His family held on to hope. But by May 20th, 2012, the curtain had closed. Robin Gibb died at 62, surrounded by family. Yet what came next was even more heartbreaking. Medical reports after his passing confirmed a congenital intestinal defect, the same rare condition that killed Maurice. Robin hadn't just lost his brother to a cruel coincidence, it was a shared genetic fate. For decades, he'd ignored the symptoms, attributing them to stress, travel, work. But the signs had always been there. And just like that, history had repeated itself, cruelly and completely. This wasn't just a family tragedy, it was a haunting echo of destiny. Andy Gibb, the youngest of the brothers, had also struggled with abdominal issues before his sudden passing at 30. Three prodigiously talented siblings, silenced not by scandal or misfortune, but by an invisible thread that had stitched itself into their biology. Robin's life was one of contrasts. A man who sang about staying alive, yet quietly felt the ticking clock behind every note. But through that pain came brilliance. His final years saw a surge of creativity that might never have happened without the sense of urgency that illness brought. That's the paradox. His frailty fueled his fire. And that fire, surprisingly, was mirrored in his financial life. Despite decades of fame, Robin approached wealth with quiet precision. Over the years, he accumulated an impressive collection of vintage Rolls-Royces and Bentleys, known for their elegance and understated power. He was seen wearing Patek Philippe and Cartier watches, timeless symbols for a man obsessed with time. His properties included a £3.5 million Oxfordshire mansion and a Gothic-style house in Miami, both wrapped in lush privacy. Robin held partial ownership in music publishing rights, including the Bee Gees' vast catalog, which generated millions in royalties annually. He also made investments in aviation and art, and maintained comprehensive insurance, health coverage, property, and loss of performance protection that reflected a life deeply aware of unpredictability. The lesson? Don't just build wealth, protect it. Robin's career shows the value of intellectual property, legacy planning, and knowing when to diversify. He turned his voice into an empire, one note at a time. Robin Gibb didn't fade. He burned, even as his body failed him. For a man whose family story reads like a Greek tragedy, he chose to write his ending in song. One last act, one final harmony. A reminder that even as fate closes in, some melodies are too powerful to silence. And there you have it, the rise, the heartbreak, and the haunting legacy of Robin Gibb. From international stardom to a quiet battle no one saw coming, his story reminds us just how human even legends can be. If this journey hit you in the feels or surprised you, go ahead and hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, And of course, subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of music's biggest icons. We've got some jaw-dropping stories coming up you won't want to miss. And remember, Robin didn't just sing about staying alive. He fought to do exactly that. His voice may be gone, but his harmony, it still echoes. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.